もチャンスがあるのかという、期待の大きかったゲームということになるんですが、まずは左にヘンドを取ったのが日本。
ジャパンのゲームプランとしてはですね、これ宿田監督の方からもやはり速いアタックですね。
Telling the Japanese players that they must step up. So now Hayashi puts in. The out half Matsuo waits. Jack Clark on Ireland's right wing. Slices it high. It hasn't crossed the touchline yet. It has now. Jack Clark, one try for Ireland in his 3 internationals so far. One of a number of Irish players who was raised, if you like, overseas. He was educated in Kenya. Now playing, of course, with Dolphin in Cork. Fujita throwing. Francis high. Saunders doesn't get any angle on it and gains no ground. In fact, loses some ground. Rob Saunders in his 8th international for Ireland. Captained the side in his first international. Just 23 years of age.
That last take by Jack Clark there was very important because Japan would have looked and seen him as the single change in the slot, and obviously they want to test him out, so it's important to know that.
Awkwardly through there, Jim Stay, or Clark again. Whistle goes that the Japanese were offside or knocked on, and it'll be a scrum back to Ireland. That greasy ball, and believe me, it is very, very greasy, difficult for all the players to handle, and the Japanese players coming through on that just knocked it forward. Outside Ireland's 22. Rob Saunders puts in. Kingston heels. Mannion holding it. Keys takes. And the line out just about 9 yards inside the Irish half. Ralph Keys, 23 points, setting an Irish scoring record against Zimbabwe. Fujita's long throw. That was the centre Kutsuki trying to take it on. Ireland opting for the scrum because the throw wasn't straight.
That was an indication of what we can expect from them. They're going to have as much variation as possible at the line out to avoid Neil Francis taking it.
So Ireland should have some advantage when the going gets tough up there at front. The Japanese, of course, impressed by Ireland scrummaging against Zimbabwe, trying to counter now the technique of the Irish pack in the tight. Saunders, Keys, and that's a good testing kick for Hosokawa, the fullback, and that's awfully difficult for him. That greasy ball coming down from outer space, difficult to control.
Yeah, that was a very intelligent kick from Ralph Keyes, because rather than go for, he's on the wrong side of the pitch for a right footer, rather than going for a 30-yard touch, he tried to put it over the fullback's head, and he succeeded. And Ireland, as a result, are within 20 yards of the Japanese line.
So Terry Kingston, Ireland's new captain, with the throw. Francis to catch, Francis to tap down. O'Hara missed the pick up. Ireland regrouping on the Japanese 22, and they're offside. They came round from in front of the ball, and it's a penalty to Japan. Pat O'Hara tried to take the tap down from Francis and just couldn't control it. And the line out now from the penalty will be on the halfway line. Matsuo, the fly half. So Kingston to throw, number 7 there at the back of the Irish line out. Gordon Hamilton, Francis is tapped down, John Fitzgerald driving forward, leaving it for Saunders, now Keyes, another testing kick for Hosokawa. This time he makes no mistake, good catch by the fullback, good clearance.
That was marvellous to see at that last line out there, the tap down and the drive, the line out, as Mick Doyle was saying, the line out driving forward before the ruck ball came back to enable Ralph Keyes to pick a spot where he wanted to kick it. Wasn't one of his better kicks, mind you, but a good line out drive.
And in the line out, the Japanese forwards penalised for pushing in the line out, penalty to Ireland, scoring chance then, just 5 minutes into the game, 5.5 minutes gone, no score so far. So Ralph Keyes hoping to take up where he left off on Sunday with those 23 points against Zimbabwe. A player who got 1 cap against England in 1986, and then a succession of injuries and misfortune kept him out of international contention. He was on the replacement bench for a while, but then really fell out of favour, and it seemed when Brian Smith from Australia was given the number 10 shirt in the Irish side that Ralph Keyes' chances of getting back in had diminished. But now with Smith professional playing rugby league, Ralph Keyes has been recalled. 6.5 minutes into the first half. Ralph Keyes with Ireland's first scoring chance, pulled it across the face of the posts, and the Japanese opt for a 22 dropout. Kingston blocks it, comes to Pat O'Hara. Now John Fitzgerald. Kingston driving him forward. Fitzgerald holding on to it. Back to Saunders. Good work by Gary Halpin. Ireland want to get over it, but it looks as if Japan are the ones who are going to take it away. Yoshida comes to Jim Staples. Brendan Mullen outside him, decides to kick for Gran, and that's a fine kick.
That is superb full-back play by Jim Staples. He looked up, he saw the spot, and he stuck it into it beautifully. That's excellent full-back play by Jim Staples.
The 7th international, and he's given Ireland a footing 5 metres from the Japanese line. Fujita's throw, won by the Japanese. Maybe it might have been tapped forward. Trying to come away, Ireland take them down. And it's a penalty against Japan for going over the top. So Ireland have a chance, and now will they give it to Keyes to try a shot at goal? Yes. Good positional play by Ireland, but that was a good effort by the Japanese at the line out, but then they couldn't really take it away against the strength of the Irish forwards, and in order to try to protect it and save it coming back to the Irish backs, they went over the top, and referee Colati from Fiji penalises them.
An aspect I'm just a little bit worried about, we had from that 22 dropout blocked by Terry Kingston, first of all, Paco Fitzgerald took it and did very well to stay on his feet. Then eventually when it came back from the ruck, when Gary Halpin drove in, there is no way we should be losing ruck ball like that, and that should not have come back on the Japanese side. And that's a very worrying aspect of our play.
9 minutes gone, no score. Ireland 0, Japan 0. And Ralph Keyes with this chance to open the scoring for Ireland. Strikes it very well. This one is right between the posts. And Ireland lead after just 9.5 minutes of play.
That's a cracking kick by Ralph Keyes. I think Ralph is a very good kicker anywhere around the 30-35 metre mark. Where the problems arise is when he has to go further outfield because he doesn't really have the strength. That was within his range, and a beautifully struck kick.
And if he keeps going the way he's been going, Ralph Keyes could set all sorts of scoring records in the course of this World Cup. He's already become Ireland's most prolific point scorer in an international, taking over from Ollie Campbell. Hosokawa restarts. Keyes making room for himself. And really looks so assured, doesn't he, Tony?
That is confident out half play out of the top drawer. He has total confidence that he can use either foot, but to step inside, step back onto his right and stick it down the line. Superb play.
Number 6 at the back of the Japanese line there. Tifaga played in the second row against Scotland, now at wing forward. And in the line-out, Ireland opted for a scrum. The referee says the ball wasn't straight. And this, of course, is a ferocious problem for the Japanese side. Outreached by most opposition. They really have to try to be inventive and vary the throw-in and so on at line-outs in order to get possession. But it is very difficult for them. Saunders to put in then, just inside the Japanese half. Mannion holds it. Irish going to shove on, and that'll hold the Japanese in. Midfield players have to retreat. Comes out to Keyes. Another testing kick for Hosokawa. Did well, calls for the mark and gets the free kick. So he's in for a pretty roasting afternoon. Number 7 there was Gordon Hamilton, the Irish wing forward, and Hosokawa does find touch, but he can expect a few more of those high ones to come down, and there's likely to be quite a severe aerial bombardment for Hosokawa during the afternoon.
I should think so. He did well to take that one, but it was a little far ahead from Ralph. He's got to judge the wind if he can at all, as close to perfection as possible. That was just a little far ahead of his forwards.
And that's Hayashi making progress for Japan. Loses possession. Ireland get it. Saunders picks up. The kick for Clark. Hosokawa chases. Good kick by Saunders.
He plays that box side of the field so well. I mean, that's his real strength, down that right-hand side. And that was a lovely kick into the corner. Again, nursing his pack forward and forward, closer to the Japanese goal line.
Number 5 there for Ireland, Neil Francis. Hayashi. Looks like a try for Ireland. Pat O'Hara, the scorer. A very untidy feedback from Hayashi. The scrum half, Horikoshi, couldn't get it, and the Irish back row were swarming onto it, and Pat O'Hara, back in the Irish side for his 11th international, gets his first try for Ireland. Really was. It's that deflected tap down from Hayashi, and look at the Irish there in numbers, and Pat O'Hara close to the ground gets the touchdown. 7 points to 0 Ireland lead. We've had 13.5 minutes of play.
That's the fear that Japan have of Neil Francis. They're looking to palm the ball down to the scrum half, and with the conditions that are out there, the wet slippy ball, that's a dangerous game to be playing.
So Ralph Keyes to attempt the conversion. Punches this, but again pulls it across the face of the post. No addition to the score. 7-0, Ireland in front. Well, we could have a good view from behind the Japanese line here. Pat O'Hara really onto it very fast and scrambled that ball over the line. The referee awards the try.
That's brave play by Pat, but that's his middle name. I mean, anything on the deck at all, Pat is going to be close to it, you can be sure, for the rest of this game.
Natsuo restarts. Saunders pumps it back downfield and finds a fine touch just inside the Japanese half. Quite a good crowd at Lansdowne Road on this wet, miserable October afternoon. A little bit of handball there. Penalty against Japan in the line-out. And the penalty is against the Japanese hooker Fujita for throwing the ball in crooked. And the referee is saying is twice already he's thrown it crooked. For persistent infringements, he awards the penalty to Ireland. And Ralph Keyes brings it into the Japanese 22.
I don't think there are a better pair of kicking halfbacks in this competition than the Irish halfbacks. Both are either side of the field. They can really rifle that ball down the touchline. A very good kicking pair of halves.
So once more, Japan suffer at the line out. That time well taken by Oyagi. Natsuo, the fly half. Good break by Natsuo. Eventually swallowed up by the Irish. Horikoshi feeds it out. And Kutsuki doesn't find touch. Jack Clark gets by his opposite number. Yoshida eventually has to accept defeat.
Again, another lovely take by Jack Clark, and it's a difficult ball because it was swirling all over the place in the wind. But I thought he was sensible. He thought about letting the ball go to the midfield backs. He was right to hold on to it just to keep the game tight at this early stage. Good play by Jack Clark.
So Fujita throwing again. Deflected back on the Irish side. But a free kick to Japan. Because Ireland hadn't left a gap in the line-out between the two lines. Hayashi making progress up to halfway. Good work by the Japanese pack. Oyagi making progress. Kutsuki juggling with it. Horikoshi. Hayashi out in midfield. Yoshida. Clark after him. Gets it inside. Brendan Mullen kicks downfield. And the scrum half, Horikoshi, finds touch. Good work by Japan.
And there we had a fine example of the danger of Japan, and particularly their quick hands. The ball moves very, very quickly and snappily through their hands and out to the wing. And a fine turn of pace by Yoshida on the left wing. A good covering tackle as well by Jack Clark. But the danger signals are certainly there for Ireland.
And one of the Japanese players, Iji Kutsuki, the centre, has gone over on an ankle and is injured. Meanwhile, we'll have a look at the way the Japanese spread the Irish defence here, and Hayashi, the second rower, out in midfield, enabling Yoshida, the left wing, to try and get round Jack Clark. But Clark did well to eventually seal him off, and as it came back in, Brendan Mullen was there to effect the clearance. Kutsuki has recovered, so number 2 for Ireland, Kingston, will throw. Number 6 is Pat O'Hara, the try scorer. Number 8 is Noel Mannion. Kingston's throw. Mick Galway gathers, but the referee gives another free kick to Japan and says that the Irish were not leaving enough space between the lines. They hadn't stepped back, so the next time it'll be a penalty. And the Japanese free kick brings play up to the Irish 22. Natsuo doing well. Good kick from the out half. He made his debut for Japan in 1986 and today gains his 15th international cap. Ireland leading 7 points to 0. Just 19 minutes into the game. Ireland trying to come through on it. Hayashi being forced back. And the whistle goes. The referee saw a knock-on by Ireland. Scrum to Japan outside Ireland's 22. Now the Japanese forwards beginning to come to terms with Ireland in the line-out. Doing rather better than I'm sure many people had expected. Taken by the number 8 Latu. Matsuo, the fly half, into Ireland's 22. Saunders going back. And got in the kick under a lot of pressure, but he had put a foot in touch. And Japan now, 7 or 8 metres from the Irish line. It's their throw, and they're leaving their 2 big men at the line out. Mannion taps down, might have gone forward from Mannion. Scrum to Japan.
Our line-out is very scrappy indeed at the moment, and it's very worrying. We've got to get our act together in the line-out, or we are going to be in trouble here.
20 minutes gone. Ireland in front, 7 points to 0. Horikoshi puts in. Good drive by the Japanese pack as the scrum goes down. Japanese captain Shijo Hirao going in there just to give them a little bit of advice. Will they try and work something off the back row? Horikoshi puts in. Good drive as Latu holds it. Scrum goes down once more. Referee telling both sides, both front rows, not to collapse the scrum. So Horikoshi puts in for Japan. Ireland tried to push them out. As the scrum turns, Latu holds it. Horikoshi, Matsuo, nice inside break by the fly half. Irish defence covers. Japan have it again. Keith Crossan booting it on downfield, but he knocked it forward as Staples dribbles it on. The referee getting some stick from the crowd, but there was an obvious knock-on there by Ireland.
Here we see it again. It's actually a difficult one because if the ball had gone directly down and Keith had put his foot to it, he might have got away with it, but it certainly did go quite a few feet forward before he managed to get his foot to the ball.
So Horikoshi waits. Strong running. Puts the Japanese side inside the Irish 22. The ball went forward and the scrum is to Ireland. So the stoppage while Pat O'Hara receives some attention. Certainly in the last 5 or 10 minutes, Japanese players have been putting a lot of pressure on Ireland.
Yeah, I think that period of the game, the fact that they're camped down in the Ireland 22 at the moment is good for their confidence, and that is not good for Ireland.
So Pat O'Hara has to receive attention for a knock on the head, and once more this great wing forward affected by injury. Ireland 7 forwards holding the push, and Saunders relieves the pressure. Ireland preparing Philip Matthews.
That's good play by Saunders. He's taking the pressure and the spotlight off Ralph Keyes by sticking the ball away himself. Good touch kick by Rob Saunders.
Fujiti throws awkwardly back. Takura might have knocked it on, but Ireland are penalised for going over the top. Noel Mannion, the one who's been blamed, and Neil Francis is the one who's down, injured. And the penalty will be to Japan. Meanwhile, Pat O'Hara is being attended to on the touchline, and it's really like a bit of a battlefield just now with we see from that line out, it came back on the Japanese side. and not really the best of passes. Might have been a knock-on there, but in that schmozzle, as Ireland drove over it, Mannion was the one who was penalised. You saw him falling over on the wrong side then, and the penalty is to Japan. But at the bottom of it all was Neil Francis. There he is.
I think he actually banged his head against Michael Galway. A bit like I think David Soule got a serious injury against Japan the other day as well, and he cracked against John Jeffrey.
And while one player, Neil Francis, recovers on the field, Pat O'Hara is being bandaged and ready to re-enter the fray just off the field. But Pat O'Hara really has had a most unfortunate succession of injuries over the last year or so.
He has, and blood streaming down the side of his head. I just can't imagine Pat O'Hara any other way. I mean, that's week in, week out stuff for Pat. I hope he's all right.
So, applause while Neil Francis retires back to take his position. And the penalty will provide Hosokawa with a chance of a shot at goal. Something of a rarity in Japanese football, a place kicker of the highest quality. They seldom produced good kickers, place kickers, for some unknown reason. But Hosokawa has proved invaluable to them in their qualifying for the World Cup finals. And here he is now, the chance to open the Japanese account. That's a good kick too. Just right and wide, and Noel Mannion in possession. Tips down for a 22 dropout.
We could do without that shouting of all the school kids down there, mind you. It has no part at all in place kicking in rugby.
Indeed, not the nicest of reactions, and Pat O'Hara returns to the fray. So the Irish forwards back now, full strength. Ireland leading 7 points to 0. 26 minutes into the first half. Awkwardly down, and the Irish back row onto it. That's Hamilton in possession. Kingston beside him. The ball there for Saunders, and again he went left when he might have gone right. Fullback Yoshida in trouble, or Yoshida goes down on it. Carried over the line. 5-yard scrum to Ireland.
Yeah, I think Rob Saunders' heart was in his mouth there, because he certainly took the wrong option. That ball should have been flicked out to the open side, but he got away with it in the end.
So Ireland lead 7 points to 0. They're back within 2 meters of the Japanese line. Mannion feeds it inside. Not over. It looked like Hamilton, who just tried to barge over. Good effort there by the Irish back row. But the ball hadn't crossed the line. And Gordon Hamilton it was, who was just held up short of the line. Irish scrum. Ireland's full-back, Jim Staples, getting very close to the three-quarter line, wide out, as the forwards are told by the referee to stand up. Saunders to put in, almost on the Japanese line. Just 27.5 minutes into the first half, and referee Colati from Fiji demanding that the two front rows stand up and re-engage. So Saunders to put in for Ireland, almost on the Japanese line. Noel Mannion holds it, takes it himself and goes in. Noel Mannion, second try for Ireland. All so easy. 11 points to 0. We've had 28 minutes of play, and Noel Mannion, who scored that great try against Wales, that was his first try, but this was very easy. 2 years later, he gets a second try for Ireland. Wrong-footed, the defence. Kajihara went too wide, and Mannion was in. So that was quite rewarding for Ireland, having been under pressure a little bit for a few minutes before that. Ralph Keyes now with the conversion attempt. That's a better one. 13-0. Much healthier for Ireland, Tony.
Yes, it is. That score is badly needed. Here we see the try again. I'm delighted for Noel. You see the football skills coming through here. This is a lovely sidestep. Mind you, the flanker left the way open for it, but a lovely piece of footwork. He steps inside and that lovely feeling of making the line unopposed. Very good Noel Mannion try and very important for Ireland.
Hosokawa restarts. Saunders takes. Pumps it right downfield. Finds touch. 13 metres inside the Irish half.
The line kicking of both Rob Saunders and Ralph Keyes on that side of the field this half has been very, very good.
Mannion goes in and regathers. The referee saying that he was coming into the line and penalises Ireland. Kitsuki looking for a row, but on goes Matsuho. Ireland sealing him off. Number 8, Latu, feeding it inside, but it was all a bit static. Nice little gesture there from Latu and Keith Crossan helping each other up. The number 8, Sinali Latu, one of the Tongans in the Japanese side. Interesting combination in the back row for Japan. Tifaga from Western Samoa, Latu from Tonga, and Kajihara from Japan. France is feeding it back, and I suspect there might be offside there, but the referee, Colati, is giving a knock on, and Ireland put in. So Saunders puts in for Ireland, leading 13 points to 0. Now it comes to Keyes, and once more Keyes, a long kick for the wind will carry this across the touchline, and he'll be disappointed with that. And at the moment, Tony, I know the ball is slippy, I know it's not Ireland's idea to have an expansive game, but it is a pity that we've had 31 minutes of play and Brendan Mullen hasn't received the pass yet.
No, I agree, but I'm not surprised in the least. I knew this was the type of game, this was going to be Ireland's game plan. Hopefully as the game goes on we will see them play a somewhat more expansive game, but I'm not surprised at all, Fred.
Harikoshi feeds it out. Hirao, the captain, what a good break in midfield by Hirao, and into Ireland's 22. Not too sure if David Curtis had moved outfield then or infield, but whatever. Hirao had a clear gap. Kingston to throw inside Ireland's 22. Good catch by Francis. And the Irish forwards group around him, and that's a good rolling ball. Japanese players coming to terms with it as it comes to Saunders. And now to Keyes. And Keyes this time makes no mistake. Punishing kick for the Japanese players.
And there we see the importance of a good, clean, two-handed catch from Neil Francis. We came from yards from the Irish line right down to the halfway line because Ralph Keyes had the time and space to rifle the ball down the touchline.
The back of the Japanese line, Kajihara. And once more, Ireland penalised in the line-out. And really, it's so unnecessary for the Irish to take illegal steps in the line-out, to join the line-out late, because they should be dominating it in sheer physical height. Hayashi takes it on. Ball goes to ground. Harikoshi waits. Matsuo, good break here with the fullback. Hosokawa, Yoshida kicking on. across the dead ball line. 22 dropouts. And there'll be a stoppage as one of the Japanese players receives attention.
It's actually very intelligent what Japan are doing. Anytime they're getting these short penalties or free kicks, this is actually a very good move again from Japan. When the ball comes wide to Yoshida, I think certainly Jack Clark had him covered off. It looked as if a little rubber kick might have been more effective. But the point I was going to make is that any time that they're getting a short penalty and they're tapping the ball, which they seem to be doing most of the time, the two big men, Latu and Tifaga, are standing out in the middle of the field and they're running at the Irish midfield. We must see Kajihara or Noel Mannion come out wide to take them men. They must not be allowed to run at the Irish midfield at the backs.
Ralph Keys restarts. Tifaga gathers. Matsuo, the fly half. What a good break by Matsuo. Now Tifaga back inside. Yoyagi. Try here for Japan. Hayashi. Brilliant work by Japan. Hayashi scores straight from the 25 dropout. And Lansdowne Road rises to Hayashi in his 35th international. The former Oxford Blue gets their try. And that all came from this marvellous break by Matsuo. When the ball came back, Matsuo came in on the inside and almost ran through the Irish defence. Good little jink there. But then he had the back row in support. Tifaga was the one, or Tifaga, who drove it on, looked inside, and he found Oyagi inside him. Jim Staples had so many to contend with, he brought off that tackle. But there was Hayashi, also in support, and he was the one who gets the touchdown. Hosokawa attempts the conversion and succeeds. Japan 6 points, Ireland 13. 36 minutes into the first half. Tremendous piece of work that by the Japanese.
That was a case of fortune very much favouring the brave. I mean, that was a good break by the fly half by Matsuo, and very good support play from Japan. It was an excellent try by any standards. That was an excellent try by Japan.
And it again shows the importance of first-time tackling. And the Irish just a little bit lax. Mick Galway taps it down. John Fitzgerald tidies up. Saunders. Ireland there in numbers should get over it. But it's Japanese who actually get it. And Matsuo finds touch just short of halfway. Well, the Japanese players showed then how easy it is to pass the ball and hold it and run with it. And I really do feel that the Irish side should now begin to think of expanding their tactics just a little bit.
Yes, I would agree. I think the worrying aspect there as well, that when Matsuo decided to run at the Irish pack, there were gaps all over the place. Nobody committed himself to the tackle, and the tackle must go in early.
Here they go again. Matsuo, Hirao, Kutsuki, and the fullback, Hosokawa, looked inside for Yoshida, but it's Jack Clark downfield for Ireland. The kick crosses the line without a bounce, and Ireland gain no ground, and that really is only justice for Japan.
Yes, again, I agree. All the football for the last 15 minutes has been played by Japan. All the constructive, positive football. And they're moving the ball very well each time.
The ball hadn't travelled 5 metres in the line-out, so it must travel 5 metres from the thrower to the first point of contact. Ireland up for the scrum. Ireland have an option in situations like that, and they can take a throw themselves or a scratch. Most times it's safer for the scrum. And there's Ralph Keys showing that he can make an angle for himself quite nicely using either foot. So 13 points to 6, Ireland in front. And the best try of the afternoon of the two, the better try coming from Hayashi. Ireland scoring 2 tries, Kajihara and Noel Mannion. Hayashi getting that marvellous try for Japan. And interestingly, the 3 tries all scored by forwards.
And the message as well for the respective 3 quarters is that good quick hands will always beat a drift defence.
Matsuo, good running by Japan. They had rather weak tackling by Ireland. Brendan Mullen, the first time I think he's got the ball in his hands, not under the correct circumstances. And that'll be a scrum to Ireland on halfway. It's an interesting move there, Tony, and it could have put Ireland under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, if they'd flicked the ball wide there, certainly this side of the field was open. I don't think this is the type of game Brendan Mullen would have liked to try and make his point, because he's not seen the ball roll in attack. That's a lovely kick from Ralph Keys again.
Hosokawa returns it, finds touch 10 metres or less outside the 22. In fact, it's on the 22. As we go into injury time in the first half, Ireland leading Japan 13 points to 6. And Rob Saunders shouting instructions to the players at the back of the line as Terry Kingston, I'd say, not altogether satisfied with the response he's been getting from his players in the latter part of this first half. Mannion's tapped down, Galway juggles with it. And I'm not altogether sure why the referee is awarding a scrum to Japan. I think he says the ball wasn't in straight. Ireland win it against the head. Good work by Kingston. Now Ralph Keys. Brendan Mullen. Good break by Mullen. Jim Staples. Staples on his own. That's good work. And that try made for Jim Staples by Brendan Mullen. Good heel against the head by Terry Kingston. And that's very important. Rob Saunders goes round. The Japanese defence really caught as the ball was whipped out. Good pass from Ralph Keys and gave Brendan Mullen that chance to split the Japanese defence. Good pace by him, and Jim Staples in support was able to get by Matsuo's tackle and get the try.
Yeah, that's a lovely try by Brendan Mullen, and very well made by Ralph Keys. He looks as if he's going to give the long ball out that Japan fall for, and he just gives a short one to Mullen. But that's Mullen's real strength. It's his pace off the mark. And as he gives the ball here, again, he's looking to support Jim Staples. But Staples himself has the pace to make the line. That was a good Ireland try, and all came from the strike against the head by Terry Kingston.
Ralph Keys to attempt a conversion. And he's hit that very well. The second conversion, 19 points for Ireland, 6 for Japan. 2 minutes into injury time as the referee's whistle goes for half-time. Ireland comfortably in front. And there's the half-time score. Ireland 19, Japan 6. Colati from Fiji just telling the Irish to hold it. Checks with the Japanese captain Hirao. Japanese are ready for the start of the second half. And Ralph Keys kicks off. And that goes over the touch and goal line. 22 drop out for Japan. 19 points to 6. Ireland in front. And comfortably so, but it doesn't really reflect the tremendous effort the Japanese put into it in the first half. And for a spell, they really did have Ireland running around in circles. Matsuo restarts. That's a good catch by Mannion. Saunders. Keys. Crossan chases. Crossan onto it. But Crossan pushed his opponent. Matsuo. The referee says he was offside, in fact, and it's not a penalty for obstruction. It's in fact a penalty from where the ball landed. Scrum from where it was kicked to Japan, and they opt for the scrum. Matsuo looks inside, finds Hayashi into the Irish half. Horikoshi feeds it out to Matsuo. Jim Staples coming onto it. Good clearance by Staples, 10 metres inside the Japanese half. Staples was outside his 22, so he knew he couldn't kick it into touch on the full if he wanted to gain ground. And in fact, Yoshida carried the ball into touch, or Matsuo, so the line out is to Ireland. Meanwhile, Noel Mannion has to receive attention.
Yeah, that's something Jim Staples is very good at, and that's reading and sizing up those situations so quickly. He did it here against Zimbabwe on Sunday, and he did it again there, where he realised the fullback was out of the game and straight away hammered the ball down the touchline. And for a big man, he has a remarkable facility to get the ball into his hands, down to his foot very, very quickly in the tightest of space. He's playing well today.
So we've had just 2 minutes of the second half. Noel Mannion fit to recover and take his place in the line out. An Irish throw 10 metres inside the Japanese half. Ireland 19-6 to the good. Terry Kingston throwing. Hamilton, number 7 on the Irish side. Referee reminding him no barging, no lifting. Nicely gathered by Neil Francis, number 5. And Ireland getting a tremendous momentum into this rolling maul, almost taking at running pace. Hamilton, number 7, supporting the man in possession. Ireland drive up to the 22. Still in possession, it comes back and eventually is a little lack of Irish concentration, but Japan penalised for offside. That was a tremendous driving maul, but at the last moment it seemed to come a little bit unstuck, Tony.
Yeah, that's the best concerted piece of Irish forward play we've seen in both matches. Again, a good take. There was passion in the driving. The worrying aspect, as you said, Fred, is at the end of it all, OK, we got the penalty kick out of it, thankfully, but the ball died on the ground and looked again as if it was coming back on the Japanese side.
The forwards did well. They were together there. Good drive by Mick Galway, number 4. He kept it going, kept in possession. The support was there all the while, driving into the Japanese 22. And then, as it stopped, one of the Japanese players gets offside, but there, when it came out, Pat O'Hara left it there, and the players more or less fell over one another as the ball went to ground. But the penalty was against Japan for offside. Ralph Keyes to attempt to stretch Ireland's lead. 2 conversions and a penalty goal so far. And he's added a second penalty goal after 4 minutes of the second half. 22 points to 6. Ireland in front. Keys in good form again, Tony.
Yeah, another lovely strike from Ralph Keys from the penalty kick. But again, the point in that rolling ball and what happened at the end of it is that if you take any of the top teams, New Zealand, England, France, Australia, and they get into that position, the next stop is the terracing. They make sure they reach that try line, or as close as doesn't matter.
Matsuo restarts. Saunders gathers from inside his 22. Matsuo the fly half. In possession, oops. That'll be a knock-on. Advantage to Ireland. The referee waits. Ireland want that loose ball and want it quickly. It's there for Saunders. Out it comes to Clark. Mannion overruns it. Whistle goes. No advantage accruing to Ireland. And a penalty for offside against Japan.
Oh, that so many other referees in this competition would let the advantage develop as this referee did there. They gave Ireland every opportunity to try and get the ball wide. It didn't materialise, and he still went back and gave the penalty. Good referee. Here we see it again. I mean, the ruck was a little slow, but at least Ireland drove in with commitment. And when it eventually came, there were a lot of Japanese players who are still coming back from an offside position when the ball goes wide here, as we can see. And eventually it goes to ground behind Noel Mannion. Good referee.
I think perhaps the penalty was awarded because the Japanese player on the ground didn't move away from the ball or tried to, and prevented Ireland getting the quick heel that perhaps would have brought a try. However,
I think there was also a little bit of interference there with Rob Saunders as he was trying to get the ball away.
So we've had 6 minutes of the second half. Ireland leading 22 points to 6. And Ralph Keyes, 2 penalty goals and 2 conversions thus far. Strikes this one very well. Up go the flags. His 3rd penalty goal. And it looks as if he's in for another good points total. Ireland 25, Japan 6. That's very consistent kicking, and that's the sort of ratio that is necessary in international rugby now if any team is to win. They've got to take most of their penalty chances. Mick Galway, what a good flying catch that was by the second rower. Neil Francis, number 5, tracking them out. Ireland coming up to the 10-metre line. Now it comes back to Saunders. Has a look to see where Hosokawa is. Good catch by Hosokawa in no man's land.
That was a great kick by Rob Saunders. When he gets under those kicks, he puts so much height on them that the man underneath has so little time to do anything other than step into touch as happened there. And again, good driving, good committed driving by Ireland.
Ireland with 3 tries in this game so far from Pat O'Hara and Noel Mannion and Jim Staples just before half-time. Terry Kingston, captain, throwing. Again, beautifully taken at the line by Neil Francis. And Ireland get that rolling ball going. Japan contain it. They try it the other way. Ralph Keyes back to Saunders. Clark. Pat O'Hara in there. Now can Mick Galway make some progress. Ireland get over it. Now it comes to Keyes. Now Brendan Mullen. That was a mistake from Brendan Mullen as it comes now back to Curtis. Keyes, Mannion. Japanese player goes over the top. Penalty against Japan.
That was not good play by Noel Mannion. That's the old syndrome I've spoken about many times, about at times when you give an Irish forward a ball, he looks for the nearest opposition jersey. Now, that was a French player or a New Zealand player or an Australian player. He'd look for the space on the outside with Keith Crossan there. Crossan should have got that ball. Let's see what happens here when it goes wide. That ball should have been given straight away to Keith Crossan. But it's a case of looking for the jersey and barging into it. And look, even Ralph Keyes is on the loop there. That's the concept of space, the vision to see the space and to use it. And we did not see it there from Noel.
And now, in fairness to Noel, I'll jump to his defence a little bit, Tony, because I reckon that Keith Crossan was a long way away, and he probably felt that if he tried to sling out a long pass, there was a danger of a Japanese interception or a counter-attack. And I think he was really trying to set up a ruck which would maybe be a little more controlled.
I accept that. I would still like to see the ball given early to the winger, because the speed that Keith Crossan has, he was in space. I think he could have knocked up more damage. I just feel that Noel Mannion read that one wrong. Having said that, Noel Mannion was having a particularly good game today. He just unfortunately found himself in that position out in the middle of the field.
So the attention now on Ralph Keyes as Japan expect the damage to their injured warrior on the touchline. 25-6 for Ireland. Ralph Keyes to attempt the penalty. Good kick from Ralph Keyes. His 4th penalty goal. 28 points to 6. And the Japanese hooker, Fujita, looks as if he's going to be off the field, and he's going to be replaced by Kunda. Masahiro Kunda, who played against Scotland, is now in as the replacement hooker.
The Japanese hooker, Fujita, retires injured and is replaced by number 16, M. Kunda.
Neil Francis gathers. The Irish players driving this one on. Should be available now for Saunders. Out to Keys. The long one to Curtis. Out to Staples. Looks for Crossan. Crossan swallowed up by the Japanese cover, and it was good cover from Japan. Whistle goes. Ball knocked on. And Ireland will take a scrum.
So much more control to the Irish play now. That was very well moved, particularly by David Curtis. But Jim Staples' angle of running was very much towards the stand on the far side of the field. And really the only option there was for Keith Crossan to come back inside and take it, rather than take the ball on the touchline where there was nothing, no space at all.
Once more, it was noticeable how quickly the Japanese were homing in on Brendan Mullen then as the ball was coming across the line. And it was a good pass out to Staples that prevented Brendan Mullen really getting ball and man together.
That's right. David Curtis did particularly well because he actually kept the spin on the ball, as it were, as he used it, which is a very tactical skill. He did particularly well to get it right.
The referee penalises Japan for collapsing the scrum in the front row. And Ralph Keys will attempt to give Ireland footing back in the Japanese half. Succeeds, gets it into the 22. Another fine kick by Ralph Keys. He really has been kicking so well. He's so assured and unhurried in his play. Sign of a player in form, Tony.
Well, that for me is what Ralph Keys is all about. I think his kicking, which has been absolutely phenomenal, his place kicking, the success of it, is a pure bonus. Just the conviction and direction and authority he brings to that position, key position.
Here he goes again, into Brendan Mullen. Brendan Mullen setting up the ruck. Saunders, Keys did well. The drop at goal is blocked. May have a second chance. Spins it back, and now it comes to Saunders. Curtis outside him. Now into Mannion. O'Hara picks up. Saunders out to Keys. Staples. Jack Clark. Jack Clark leaves the ball to be picked up, and it's Neil Francis who picks it up. Whistle goes. It's a penalty against Ireland for playing the ball on the ground. It seemed that Jack Clark had released it, but the referee Colati quite clearly indicating that the penalty was for the ball being played on the ground by a player on the ground.
I disagree with Mr. Colati if that's his interpretation there, because Jack Clark certainly wasn't at fault unless somebody else did, but Jack Clark got away from the ball the second he hit the deck. I certainly didn't see the infringement.
Nice movement by Ireland. Jack Clark might have gone further on the outside, but look at how quickly the Japanese cover was over and surrounding him, and there was rather a lack of Irish support for him when he eventually got into trouble. So relief for Japan, who trailed 28 points to 6, but they're under pressure again. Saunders. Another great kick. Inside the 22. Referee penalises number 14. Says he was in front of the kick. So the Japanese go back for a scrum from where the ball was kicked.
That's a pity, because I have to say it again. They are as fine a quality up and under as you're going to see anywhere. They're terrific kicks from Rob Saunders.
We've had 15 and a half minutes to play in the second half. Second strike against the head for Ireland. Out it comes from Curtis to Staples. This is a good break by Staples. Crossing inside him, being hampered before he got the ball. Referee penalises Japan. Penalty to Ireland. Keith Crossan was on the scissors move coming in from the left wing, waiting for the inside pass from Staples, and the Japanese players really couldn't resist the temptation to interfere. We can see it very clearly, I'd say, from here, as the ball was whipped out across the line. Good passing this from Ireland, and Staples very fast on the break. Now, as Crossan came in inside him, there was a lot of holding as Staples tried to link up with him, and he really couldn't get away from that. Penalty to Ireland.
What made that movement was two things. David Curtis really leaned in when he was passing the ball. And secondly, and even more important, Jim Staples took that ball so flat at that pace close to the gain line, he was clean through the gap before the Japanese could do anything about it.
Ralph Keyes, scorer so far in the game of 16 points. 4 penalty goals, 2 conversions. Could be another record on for the Cork Constitution fly half. Ralph Keyes with the penalty pushes this one right and wide. Ball tipped down for a 22 drop out. Meanwhile, Brendan Mullen just getting some attention from Joe Doran, the Irish physio. Happy and determined to continue. Matsuo with the drop out. Tifaga taps it down. Taken on by the reserve hooker, Gunda. Arakoshi. Kingston, the one who breaks the tackle. Ireland tried to get over it. And this time, the penalty goes the other way. Well, in fairness to referee Colati, I think he's been reasonably generous to the Japanese players there. Arakoshi passes it out. Comes to Yoshida. Good break by Yoshida. Getting by Jack Clark. Danger here for Ireland. Saunders trying to cut him out. Jim Staples, that's a good tackle. Comes into Matsuo, but it's going to be a second try for Japan. Great try. Kajihara. The number 7. 28 points to 10. And what a good run by Yoshida on the left wing. As the quickly taken by the scrum half, Arakoshi, and it was whipped out from the fly half out to Yoshida. And look at this, he got round Jack Clark very easily indeed, couldn't hold on to his jersey, and once away he flew down that left wing. Just 5'5", a little flyer on the Japanese left wing. Saunders did very well to come across and shepherd him into Staples. Good tackle there. The ball quickly released, and the support was there for Kajihara to get in for the try. Second try for Japan. And Hosokawa fails with the conversion. 28 points to 10. And there's a disappointment for Ireland. Keith Crossan coming off injured. He was being tended to back there, and the replacement will be Vinnie Cunningham. Keith Crossan looking as if he's done over on an ankle. Galway taps it down. That's a bit untidy, Ireland, but it's Ralph Keyes who steadies it down. Back into the 22. What a good kick. Tony Ward.
I mean, how that man has been left out of the Irish side in favour of Brian Smith. I just turned my hair out. Ireland were going back at a rate of knots there. He picks up the ball and places it into space, and they go forward again. That's out half play. That's what the position is all about.
And that's Vinnie Cunningham coming on to the Irish side on the left wing in place of Keith Crossan. Japan trying a counter-attack inside their 22. They trail by 18 points. have it again. Hoshikori. But now Yoshida running into trouble. Good work by Japan. Oyagi now into the 22. Yoshida again. Forward pass. But once more, it was just as well for Ireland. There were more Japanese players in support than there were Irish defenders.
Just referring back to that try by, that marvellous run that led up to the try by Yoshida down the left wing. To be fair to Ireland, there were some very good tackles went in. There was one missed early on, but I watched Rob Saunders chase back 70 metres to try and make that tackle, and the determination and commitment was there. So it's certainly not a lack of willingness on his part to make the tackle.
Mannion holding it. Number 8, Ireland driving forward. Scrum having turned round. Ireland get the put in. It has to be reformed. And I think the referee Colati might just have a little check on the rule in those situations. The scrum should be reformed where it stops. So, Saunders feeds Keys. Another testing kick for Hosokawa inside his own 22. Returns it downfield. Staples gathers. Back into the Japanese 22. Bounces just across the line. No ground gain by Jim Staples. 28-10. Ireland conceding 2 tries to Japan, and 2 super tries they've been, both by forwards. Hayashi and Kajihara. Neil Francis is penalised. Don't understand that. So Japan open it out. Great work there by Oyagi again. Handle back. Ball was loose. Out to Yoshida. This time Jack Clark forces them into touch. 23.5 minutes into the second half. Japan now once more going and enjoying a good phase as Ireland, leading 28 points to 10, seem to have relaxed a little bit. Referee asking the players to leave a gap, and there's a clear gap down there between the 2 lines. Neil Francis gathers, and the Japanese side penalised. The referee saying number 6, Tifaga, was the one who was interfering with Neil Francis. That's Oyagi, number 5. Back in the Japanese side, didn't make it for the match against Scotland. Brought back into the second row for today's game. Keys with the penalty. Fitzgerald takes. Ireland get a scrum. The referee says the ball was knocked forward by Japan. Hayashi will be thrilled, I'm sure, with the try he scored today. Saunders puts it. Japanese forwards will have to come back to the mark. Saunders kicks for Clark. Good kick, bringing play up to the Japanese 22 or thereabouts.
That's good, sensible play, because obviously Japan are going to try and move everything they can, and Ireland have to try and slow the game down and try and pin them back into their own half. So a good, sensible kick that time by Saunders.
Mannion takes from the Japanese throw, and he's going to get a second try. Noel Mannion is in. Yes, sir. Oh, he liked that. And that was straight from a Japanese throw. The long throw that they tried to use went straight to Noel Mannion. and this time he decided to work for his try. The last one he had a simple run from the back of the scrum. This time poor Japanese tackling, and Noel Mannion just brushed them aside, and look at how he celebrated. 32-10. Noel Mannion celebrates his return to the Irish side with 2 tries. And in the background, the Irish Lansdowne Road wave, entertaining the crowd. As Ralph Keyes attempts to record his 3rd conversion. The wind won't take that back. Ralph Keyes adding 16 points today.
This is a really great try by Noel Mannion. Just watch the sheer determination. There's no way he should have got through here, but he decides that he's going to have a cut. That's terrific work, good ball handling skill, and even the handoff here at the end is top quality. That's a great try by Noel Mannion, and how he enjoyed it at the end, and rightly so. Great try.
Matsuo restarts. Mannion. Hamilton driving forward. Losing it forward. Hayashi in trouble, but the ball did go forward from Ireland. Scrum to Japan. Interesting that in Ireland's first match against Zimbabwe, the number 8 Brian Robinson scored 4 tries, and now against Japan, another number 8 Noel Mannion has scored 2 tries. Masudo. Great work by Japan. This is Matsuho, the winger. And eventually Jim Staples finds touch. But there's a penalty or a scrum. It's a referee's whistle goes, and he gives Ireland a scrum for a knock-on by Japan. Just when it seemed that Matsuho on the right wing was going to stretch that Irish defence. 32-10, Ireland lead. In what has been a very entertaining game. Plenty of movement. Ralph Keyes. Good clearance. As a look there at Kajihara, who came in a bit feet first to try and block the kick. Japan using 2 men at the line out. Kicked back, and now a little bit of footwork by the Japanese, but it's claimed by Ireland. Saunders, Keyes, didn't knock it on. That's a good piece of recovery by the fly half. And the last roll brings it into touch.
The sign of real skill is the economy of time on the ball, and Ralph Keyes epitomises that aspect.
If he has erred, he has more than made up for it, and as you say, the epitome of star quality.
Come on, that's it.
Referee calling for a scrum, giving Ireland the put in as we come to the 30th minute of this second half. Ireland leading 19 points to 6 at half time, have increased the lead now 32-10. And a stoppage by one of the Japanese players calls for attention. And not too sure which of the players it is, but certainly Japan have really tested Ireland on several occasions. They put a lot of pressure on, some fine running by their backs. Their out half, Matsuo, had a magnificent break early on, and then we saw their left wing Yoshida taking advantage of some weak Irish tackling initially to set up a fine try by Kajihara. And meanwhile Ireland have come back at them very strongly as well, and Noel Mannion with his 2 tries certainly enjoying himself at number 8. 31 minutes into the second half. Noel Mannion takes. Pat O'Hara Feeds it back. Now to Keys. Curtis. Brendan Mullen. Jack Clark overruns it, and away comes Yoshida. And that was untidy play by the Irish three-quarters. And there was no necessity for that rather lackadaisical handling in midfield.
Yes, that was sloppy. The pity is, seeing the ball moving towards the right wing today, and Jack Clark has done well. But if Simon Gagan was out there and getting ball today, what would he do? Now or never.
Noel Mannion taking on Tifaga. Penalty against Ireland for going over the top. And Noel Mannion looks as if he may have injured a leg. He's taking it easy, and Harikoshi, the scrum half for Japan, wanted to get going right away. Noel Mannion now talking to Joe Doran and indicating that his leg is causing him some problems. But what a day Noel Mannion has been having.
So unfortunate for him. Noel is such a talented footballing number 8, and the man who has replaced him has taken his chance so well. It's most frustrating to have to sit in the stand, but that's life.
So, a quick penalty taken by Japan. Hayashi setting it up. This is Oyagi, the number 5. Brendan Mullen. That's a good tackle by Mullen. Set up again. Matsuo, Harao. Matsuho into the Irish 22. Staples, Heinz touch. But I think the ball went forward from Matsuho. Jim Staples did well.
Again, lovely crisp handling by the Japanese backs, but significantly 2 very good tackles from Brendan Mullen.
In the scrum, comes to Keys, and that's a fine kick from inside his 22 to within 5-6 metres of the halfway line. Certainly Ralph Keys gives an air of solidity behind the Irish scrum, which is, I'm sure, most encouraging for the rest of the players. And once more we have a stoppage for one of the Japanese players who needs attention, and it looks like Oyagi, the number 5, and the referee says take him off and we'll continue with the play. But he is to go off for attention, and Miyamoto, the number 18, will come in. Normally a flank forward. Miyamoto, number 18. So now Oyagi, who played so well for so long, comes off and has to be attended to by a doctor as Japan open it out well. Fullback gives it inside nicely. Matsuho gives it to Yoshida. He wasn't going anywhere. Ball seemed to be knocked forward. Scrum to Ireland. So, number 18, Miyamoto comes in for Oyagi.
Number 18 for number 6. Number 18 is Miyamoto. Number 6 retired Tifaga on the Japan side.
And the penalty is for Japan. And Japan are going to run it. Noel Mannion allowed to go back. Quickly taken by Japan. And Ireland were offside. Japan take it quickly, trying for another try. Inside from the fly half, Matsuo. And another penalty to Japan, which they'll run. Japan trial 32-10. Determined as it comes to Hayashi, one of their try scorers. Scrum half beats it out to Hirao, the fly half and captain, or the centre and captain. No progress there. Japan trying everything, but the referee is giving another penalty. And the scrum half is going for the line. They haven't made it yet. And this time the referee will give Japan a scrum. They really have tried very hard.
There was some crunching tackle there from Kajihara on the scrum half when he took that quick tip.
And we have just 3 minutes of normal time remaining. There will be some time for the replacements and the injuries and the stoppages. Miyamoto, the replacement for Tifaga, as it comes back to the scrum half, and he looks for Yoshida, and the little winger is in. Yoshida gets Japan's third try. And after his run earlier in the half, he deserved a try to show for his efforts.
Please remember, at the end of the match, do not come upon the pitch. Please do not walk.
Well, they pressed so much and they ran the ball so often. Taken from the number 8 Latu, the scrum half Harakashi gave it out. Wasn't the best of passes, but Yoshida had no one to beat, and he was in for a deserved try. 14 points for Japan, 32 for Ireland. 2 minutes from the end.
Yeah, fully deserved. We've seen a few teams use that. It's a simple ball from 8, the number 8, to the scrum half. Jack Clark does well to get his hand in here, but the ball comes to Yoshida and he has no problem at all in making the line.
And the kick by Hosokawa is successful. The second conversion. Japan, 16 points. Double scores at the moment. 32-16.
But overall, I think this is a good Ireland performance. When you consider that it's a makeshift team that was put together only 2 days ago, whereas the first team, if you like to call it that, has been working together for so long, that this is actually a very good Irish performance in that context.
So Ralph Keyes restarts, and Japan were going to run everything now. Inside their own 22. Matsuo, the right wing, losing possession on the Japanese 22. Ralph Keyes, a drop at goal, left and wide. Vincent Cunningham to chase. Won't have the pace as the ball goes over the touch and goal area line, and 22 drop out.
I suppose it's easy to be the hurler on the ditch, but sitting up there, that wasn't the drop goal was not the right option there. Ralph should have flashed that ball out into the open field, because so many Japanese have been caught coming towards this side of the field.
Pat O'Hara. Back it comes to Saunders. Brendan Mullen. Curtis chases. Hosokawa just slips it into touch. 5 meters from the Japanese line. Into injury time in the second half. Ireland leading 32 points to 16. Ralph Keyes contributing today 16 points. Noel Mannion 2 tries, added to the tries scored by Jim Staples and Pat O'Hara. Terry Kingston captaining Ireland today. Back it comes from O'Hara to Kingston. He loses possession, knocks it forward, and he saw almost a try for himself to round off a very worthwhile afternoon as Ireland's captain. Back to Matsuo, the fly half, on his own line. Japanese players really doing everything to try and keep the ball alive. Whistle goes. The referee said there was a knock-on and it'll be a scrum to Ireland. And Ireland with one victory over Zimbabwe by 55 points to 11, now leading Japan 32-16 in injury time, assured of a place in the quarter-finals of the World Cup. Their match against Scotland will decide whether Ireland play a quarter-final in Murrayfield or a quarter-final in Lansdowne Road. So Saunders puts in as the scrum goes down. The Japanese front row reckon pretty tired as Saunders puts in. Now can Ireland finish with a flourish? Back into Mannion, Hamilton, Saunders to Keys, Curtis. The long one out is intercepted very well by Katsuki. Ralph Keys covering. Ralph Keys looking for support and finds it in Brendan Mullen. The kick was too far. And once more, passing in the Irish three-quarter line, just a little bit sloppy.
Yeah, that's unfortunate because really there's no way that ball should have gone to ground. The understanding out wide there was very, very poor. And really Ralph Keys shouldn't have had to come back to clean that whole thing up, which he did very well. But we must get it right out wide, which we're not doing at the moment.
Neil Francis, supported by Mick Galway, who feeds Saunders. And Gary Halpin took his eye off it. Referee is now going to award the scrum.
It's so demoralising when the forwards have gone to the trouble of giving a good ruck ball as we got that time to see it spread out wide and hit the ground.
Well, that's the rather anticlimactic finish to this game between Ireland and Japan. Ireland have beaten Japan by 32 points to 16.